Welcome, everybody. This is D. Durrell with D. Durrell Life Solutions. Happy to be here. I'm located at my office at the practice. I decided to do an impromptu live stream today. It's been a while since I have went live on the Life Solutions channel, so I thought today would be the appropriate time to break that streak. Again, hope everybody has had a great weekend. Hope they've having a great work day. This is the early part of the week. This is Tuesday. For myself, it's been a very busy week so far at the practice, at my facilities. Focused a lot on the administrative side of things, monitoring things, focusing on some financial things and so on to improve my company as a whole. Today what we're going to talk about is, can YouTube be used to replace therapy? Is YouTube a form of therapy? Can YouTube be used as therapy? We're going to tackle those particular topics, those ideas. The purpose of this particular video stemmed from my interaction in the manosphere, particularly on Sunday, on a brother that I'm very cool with named Reg the Bad Guy. Shout out to Reg the Bad Guy and his crew, in which there were guys questioning my professionalism, questioning my competency in research and the effectiveness of therapy. We began focusing on these issues as it relates to a variety of problems with content creators on YouTube. The panel consists of at least 5 or 6 other people who I was in an intense argument with, ongoing. I felt like there was an unwillingness to listen to me because I am not a proponent of red pill ideology. In consequence to that, the participants on the panel decided to yell, scream, and curse, and therefore I responded in the same. And one of the biggest questions is that I can't prove how effective I am as a therapist. I am not helping enough Black men. My response is, I have documentation to prove otherwise, and I don't need validation from Negroes on YouTube. I had a career before YouTube, and I'm going to have a career after YouTube, and I don't value that type of criticism about a field you don't understand, nor are you qualified to give an opinion about it. And in many cases in my interaction, because I'm in various sectors, particularly the Umar Johnson sector, and shout out to Spot and Shot him for coming in. I see he got his eyes wide open. That brother's a great troll. But the question remained that the manosphere has helped a great deal of people, particularly men, learn to avoid committing suicide, avoid hurting themselves, avoid doing any type of behavior that is detrimental to their well-being. I rebutted from the position that the manosphere hasn't done a damn thing to help men. The manosphere could be a space that could provide some level of emotional support, but the problem is that the manosphere in itself is not mentally sound? How can you give support for a man dealing with relationships with women when yourself, you as an individual, have issues, particularly the same issues that the person you're trying to help? How are you capable of helping somebody deal with the same issue that you're dealing with, and you refuse to work on your own issues? You see, the problem with the manosphere and the problem with people in YouTube is that if you, it is too much, it's too much activity on people attempting to be liked by others. You see, I didn't understand how powerful the thumbs up button was. There are some people, because their self-esteem is so low, that they're willing to hold on to anything to make them feel higher than what they really are. So if you're a person with low self-esteem, and even if it's coming from people that coming from a place of dysfunction, a person who is saturated with low self-esteem will hang on to you if you can influence them to feel better about themselves. I and myself was offended by the questions that were given to me. I was in many ways offended. I was flabbergasted. I was apathetic towards some of the complaints that these guys were making that made no sense. As we begin to have this circular argument about my support of Black women and Black people, and their support of Black men and Black men only, and the hell with the Black community, and the hell with Black women. You see, it's embarrassing to have these type of conversations with people of your own race, own community, likewise experiences. Excuse me. Thus, when we transfer into the topic of women, these same men lose their damn mind. And these men actually think that the videos that a lot of these content creators create are therapeutic, and it provides help. It is used, they believe that the videos are used as a helpful form of psychotherapy, as a healthy form of mental stability for people who may have issues, again, due to women. I myself was embarrassed as a Black man to hear other Black men speak like this. But I am already orientated to the fact that this is the manosphere. These are the mindsets. This is what this space consists of. And in order for me to function in this space, I can't continue to have these fruitless arguments over and over and over and over again. I had a debate on Saturday. The same thing. Topic on abortion. Brother got mad that I had statistics that were more accurate and more legitimate. This brother gets mad, yells and curses me out. I eventually started doing the same. And so we had a major falling out. And it may not be the last time we have a major falling out. But according to people in that space, the manosphere is deemed as a therapeutic tool to help Black men cope with their emotions. I greatly disagree with that. I have even heard people in the space that I'm in most of the time, the Umar Johnson sector, or what we call the sector, in which I have way more influence and prestige than as opposed to the manosphere. And I have heard people then speak of the fact that they use this as therapy. Now, guys, can you hold on 1 second? Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That obviously wasn't important. So, I also want to give a shout out to my boy Black BMT, Black Male Talk. I am also broadcasting from Black Balance Network, in which we create content on that platform. I also want to give a shout out again to Spot 'em Shot 'em. And anybody from the clouds, come down from the clouds. Who's watching me? We have 7 in the chat. We topped out around 10. And I'm going to give you the reasons why YouTube or any other social media cannot replace therapy. And it should not be. Okay? The first thing, the reason why it should not be is because YouTube is impersonal. It's impersonable. Okay? YouTube cannot replace therapy if this is merely you communicating with people you don't know. You don't know if they're real. They have personas, avatars. There are people who have other ulterior motives to why they decide to be on YouTube in the first place. What's up, Be More Legends? Appreciate you for coming in. Also, you must also ascertain the fact that therapy is a long-term ordeal. Are you going to come on YouTube and do and create? Are you going to come on YouTube and create videos just to benefit yourself? I thought the purpose of YouTube was supposed to benefit both the listener and the content creator. When you come to therapy, the purpose of therapy is to benefit you and you own. The purpose of therapy is not to benefit the therapist. I am not facilitating therapy to help myself. That is an ethical no-no. The purpose of therapy is to help the client. A person who parades around YouTube pretending that this YouTube is a means of helping them relieve their mental health symptoms, actually, in my professional opinion, that's a sign that there are a lot of problems. It is a sign that there are therapeutic means that need to correct that illogical standpoint. Therapeutically speaking, that is what we call a thinking error. It is illogical, it's unfounded, it's not grounded in truth, and it is deceptive. What's going on, Nikki? How are you doing? What's going on, DJ Drama? As we watched the video when I was in the manosphere focusing with Reg the bad guy and his cohorts, I vacillated to the fact of, should I do more content that focuses on the in-depth psychopathology of people that I and myself give a clinical impression have issues? And as you all know, I have to speak in a language that is short of clinical diagnoses, because you have people in other sectors who feel that I have unethically said and did things, and they want to reprimand me through my board. So I have to be careful. I have to be careful with that. I know at least 3 people that have committed suicide in the last year. I know I know several content creators in other spaces, and including the space that I'm routinely in, that have a mental health diagnosis. I have at least 3 content creators. No, not, and I'm going to say 3. It's actually over 5. I have at least 5 content creators that I have spoken to offline who all have a clinical diagnosis. And some of those diagnoses are very severe. There were 2 scenarios in which I was on YouTube, in which I basically single-handedly guided a content creator to enroll himself into the hospital. That was a client. That was, and I'm saying client, but that was a very, very good friend of mine, YouTuber of mine. Late at night, I'm watching his content, and I basically coaxed him into getting off of YouTube and going home and letting his wife know that he needs to go to the hospital. And I've actually done that multiple times with him, but particularly one time, I had to coax him and guide him to go to the hospital and check himself in. What's going on, Tiff Griff? What's going on, Miss T Pre? Appreciate you all for being here. Another scenario with that same individual. We had conversations online in which he said, well, D. Durrell, I enjoy YouTube because YouTube is therapeutic for me. YouTube provides me the environment to relieve my tension, to relieve my emotion, to relieve my anxiety. I responded to the brother to help him. I understand that I am very cognizant of his history, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that you have established a brand on YouTube in which people follow and listen to, and it gives you the opportunity to interact with others, because interacting with others serve as a positive reinforcement that you don't necessarily achieve in your real life. However, in looking at the totality of that situation, if you want to be more sociable and more interactive with people, then let's start composing the work and you start doing the work to be more sociable to people in your environment. Because in our essence, you don't really know the people you're interacting with. And when you're meeting people face to face, it's more real. Okay. It's more organic. And it can yield possibly higher positive reinforcements as opposed to you interacting with people just because they're on YouTube. Now, when we talk about can YouTube be used as therapy, I've had these conversations with him in which I told him, no, sir. Now, can YouTube be used as a means, as a tool to help people who went through tragic events, the ability to create teachable moments for those who may be going through similar situations or avoid those situations? Yes, but that's not therapy. To be honest with you, it's borderline psychoeducational. At best, just self-help. But it's not therapeutic. It is not what I would deem therapy. It can create a false sense of therapeutic relief, but that's not the design of YouTube. YouTube is not designed to treat mental illness. Next position. I've had several female content creators from other sectors. One in which experienced a mental health breakdown over a bad interaction with someone. And she basically had an episode, a depressive episode on camera, and was irate and out of control. And what disappoints me when we're dealing with our people don't like, I don't understand the intellectualism of our people, in which those, for some reason, we as a community, as Black people, I know that we lack a strong culture of professionalism and intellectualism due to our history, because we were prevented for years for even attempting to reach those levels. But it's something wrong in our community in which a large percentage of our people think the more educated you are, the less relatable you are. Let me repeat that. The more educated you are, many of our people think the less relatable you are. And then many think the more educated you are, the more white you become. Now, I would admit that in some essence of education, there is a level of whitewashing that is attempted if you're not cognizant of it, if you don't have a sense of awareness. But in scenarios with this, I basically was using my own clinical skills, not necessarily to perform therapy on camera, but to showcase effective ways to communicate with those who are mentally unstable or having a mental health break. And don't you know, guys, in the process of me doing that, there were people in the chat telling me to shut up. There were people who didn't know what I was doing and why I was doing it, and didn't care to ask me what I was doing and why was I asking certain questions. They told me to shut up and leave her alone. In initially hearing that, I became, I for about a split second, I became very frustrated and irritable, and also mixed with being angry. But I understand that there's a large level of ignorance as it comes to as it relates to mental health and therapy and therapists, psychologists, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people choose not to seek those services because of the ignorance and the lack of education of the system itself, but also the fact that there are a lot of fallacies that involve mental health. Period. So I allowed them to say what they wanted to say, but I continued to do what I know was professionally appropriate so that I can make sure that this person was in a state of mind that when they disconnected from the cameras, that they were not going to attempt to do something that could hurt themselves. But see, these every example that I have given, every example that I have articulated at this point, in some way exemplifies people's misunderstanding of mental illness and the lack of therapy and the fact that therapy is irreplaceable. Now, are there other means and other self-help tips and strategies that can help people manage and focus on treating their mental illness and coping? Yes, there are tons of things that you can do that would be not equal to therapy, but it can also be therapeutic. Listening to music is therapeutic. Exercising, joining self-help groups. Like there are PTSD groups, there are major depressive groups, there are bipolar groups with families. There are groups for people who've suffered trauma from rape, molestation. There are groups in which people, not necessarily trauma bonding, because trauma bonding is just basically you spewing out, whatever trauma happened amongst others that agree with you, no matter what you're saying. It's just a rotation of people constantly giving stories of pain and everybody just agreeing. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, I'm back. So Spottom says, are there groups for 50-year-old Negroes that play with Barbie dolls and asking for a friend? Come on, man. Now, Spottom. This is a more serious channel. This is a more therapeutic channel, brother. Come on now. This is not that. No, I don't listen. I'm gonna say this. And I can actually say this because he admitted himself. Mr. Palmer is actually diagnosed with a certain mental health diagnosis in which there are plenty of self-help groups, particularly with that type of diagnosis, in which they meet weekly or whenever to help themselves cope and provide support. So yes, spot him, shot him. Yes, spot him. I have to tell you, there are groups for people who have those issues. Yes, it is. But he would never attend anything like that. He's too vain. He would never do that to help himself. He thinks doing videos about Umar Johnson and others in the sector that constitutes help for him, playing with Legos and baby dolls and things like that. That's his therapeutic exercise, allegedly. So since I see, sometimes I'm not gonna say since I. Sometime as I reflect on my experience doing YouTube, I've been doing YouTube videos for 4 years, well over 4 years now, since 2017. The first year of me doing YouTube videos were strictly therapeutic videos that nobody wanted to look at. I didn't begin having traction doing YouTube videos until around September of 2018. And that's facts. My first year of doing YouTube, my videos were created sporadically. They focused more on mental health, strictly mental health stuff. It didn't relate to things going on YouTube. I will say that um, I used I cammed up most of the time. The quality was decent, but could have been better. Um, at the time you had Google Hangout, you didn't have StreamYard, so I didn't stream at all. I didn't start streaming. I didn't begin streaming until um 2019. Topaz says, "Shut out to Topaz." Topaz presents, and by the way, guys, Miss Topaz has a very good channel. You can check out Topaz Presents, a Neo-Nubian Nuances. And also, I like you all to check her out at 4 o'clock on Fourth Quarter Talk. You can check her channel out. She's basically up there with a bunch of guys talking about a lot of issues related to men and women. Um, Topaz is also a therapist like myself, and she's located in the city of Houston as myself. And she gives a lot of great insight and colorful commentary. So she says, hell no. But the problem is, Topaz, I'm sorry, for the record, I'm sorry. It used to be 4 quarter. Now it's For the Record TV. So you can check her out on For the Record TV. I apologize for that. That's the old name. But Topaz, you've been in many of the similar spaces that I have been in. I don't know if you've ever been asked that question before, but I've been asked that question many times from people that don't like me and don't like the fact that I won't adopt red pill ideology. I find that people would attempt to constitute YouTube as a form of replacement for therapy. And when I respond in the manner that Topaz did, which is hell no, then all of a sudden I'm getting emotional. How can you be a therapist, D. Durrell? Therapists shouldn't act like that whenever they have a conflictual interaction. Is that how you act in your therapy sessions, D. Durrell, when someone says something you don't like? D. Durrell, do you go off yelling and cursing at people and saying this and that and whatever else because they don't agree with you, D. Durrell? And so my response is, it's obviously you don't understand psychology, you don't understand mental health, you don't understand the training that I have mastered. And really, it's better off that you don't continue to show your ignorance. Please be quiet. Please be quiet. Now, you must understand, for those that don't understand some of these sectors that I'm talking about, Topaz does understand that we're talking to people who are socially awkward. We're talking to people who don't understand how to gauge women in interaction. We're talking about people who are challenged in the sport of communication, who have a flawed sense of perception as it relates to a man's place in the world and a female's place running parallel or unparalleled, I may say. And they come from a place of biasness. Topaz says yes, and I said the same thing. She said, oh my God, they'll be all right. I said what I said. So, Topaz, I want to pose this question to you because this was something that was posed to me in a manosphere interaction on Sunday. So, as I was having a discussion with, and this was one of the reasons I decided to create this content. So, there was a notion that I don't know what I'm talking about because I basically simp for women no matter what, and I don't hold them accountable. And therefore, they question my competency in effectively treating Black men in my therapeutic practice. And so, Topaz, they had the audacity to ask me to formulate a study over the last, I'm going to say 13, 15 or plus years of me doing facilitating therapy. They want me to compile all Black men that had relationship issues and to track the effectiveness of me helping them through those relationships and the outcomes. And they got upset that I dismissed wanting to do it. They actually think that I'm going to spend my valuable time creating something for them for free. I told them a lot of colorful things, but I basically told them no in a very kind manner. On this channel, I keep it very vanilla, but you all can get the drift of how I responded to that. So Topaz says treating Black men doesn't mean blaming women. It's self-awareness and accountability. Exactly. Particularly when you're blaming Black women does not promote growth. Blaming Black women does not promote growth. And blaming Black women in all actuality deters you from your own accountability. And when I talk about Black male accountability, they get upset. I'm going to drop a name. As I was speaking to a brother named Big Game Orenthal, for those that know Big Game, Big Game Big Game Orenthal thought that it was horrible for me to have Black men go into therapy and not talk about getting their vengeance on Black women. But Big Game Orenthal argued me to death that if he's in therapy talking about the problems that he had with women, then we should be talking about the woman and what she did and not the things that he's doing. I'm sitting here getting a god. I'm sorry. I was basically interacting with them, simultaneously developing a migraine headache at the responses that I was getting. That as a therapist, I would never allow a client to come into therapy to blame somebody else for the problems that they have. That to me is, and to me that's elementary. And to them, they think that this is such complex topics. They think that this is something that's so complicated and high level. And I'm listening to them like this is elementary to me, and I would basically nip that in the bud within the first 5 minutes. Yes. What's up, TMK Media? He says NPW, hey bougie. Okay, what did that mean? Okay. So Topaz Presents stated, vengeance means you're still focused on the person. They win because your life stops. We would teach the person to accept and correct and make themselves whole because that's the only person who can control. But no, Topaz, she must pay. for what she did? Why is it that black women can't pay for the horrible things they do to black men? Can you all hear the trauma? The trauma that I hear in that, the emotional trauma. As to me, I feel that that's only surface level. The root of that for a lot of these guys is that in their early developmental stages, either with their moms, sisters, or whoever were women in their lives, there were issues in which they were treated a certain way, and they felt like the females that treated them as such should have been punished for what they did to them. On this particular channel, D. Durrell Life Solutions, besides me talking about PPP loans and business, my most watched videos are about the relationship between black women and their sons. Matter of fact, just in the last 2 days, I have some old videos that I created 4 or 5 months ago that continue to get comments from people commenting and giving their perspective of me doing those type of videos. The emotional trigger that black men encounter when I talk about the relational dynamics of black women and their sons, it is almost equivalent in the manosphere when they talk about child support. It is almost equivalent to divorce. Every week, I have people who watch and come across my videos. They usually come across the videos that relates to the dynamic of black women being mothers and raising sons without a father. Appreciate you for coming in, Topaz. Have a great meeting. Hi, Kai. How you doing, Kai? NY007. Appreciate you for coming in. Matter of fact, Kai, I actually watched a replay of one of your videos, actually a few of your videos early last week. Any person that thinks within a normal range, any person of average intelligence, any functional person that knows anything about therapy or have known anyone else that has received therapy would conclude that YouTube could never be seen as a tangible replacement for therapy, psychological therapy, or mental health counseling. However, in this space, people argue to me that black men and videos, YouTube videos that are edited, cut, and people under certain personas can be more effective in helping people and helping them grow and improve on themselves. I have come to the realization that on this channel, as I talk about these issues, I can no longer yell, scream, and curse at some of these people, nor use disparaging and offensive names. I'm just going to beat them with the knowledge, training, experience, whether they agree with me or not. It really doesn't matter. And one of the frustrations is that when I say certain things about certain things, because of my training, because of my education, they know it's very difficult to combat that because I'm coming from a position that they can't reach or they have no knowledge of. This is the only space on YouTube where when I go into spaces, whether they're people in an educational setting, a counseling setting, a judicial setting, this is the only setting where people try to discredit my training. When I go into these spaces, when I talk, they listen. And many of these people pay me a lot of money to talk and give them consultation. I'm giving out that sometimes free consultation, and it falls on deaf ears in this space. You see the irony in that? But this is what I'm dealing with. And I'm going to continue to talk and do videos to reflect on my stance that there are a lot of mentally ill YouTubers that have no business creating content, particularly on certain topics that intensify their mental health symptoms. Period. As a therapist, it is most effective to be preventive, not responsive, retroactive. It is better to prevent things than to allow them to happen and then you try to deal with the mess that occurred afterwards. And those are facts. So, guys, I appreciate you all for coming in today. This has been a wonderful interaction. I appreciate the people that came in today. I tapped out at 18 viewers. That is actually pretty good for this channel that I rarely go live on. So I may have to begin to do more videos, more live streams, more teachable moments from a counseling perspective. So with that being said, guys, you take care of each other, take care of yourself, your family. Y'all have a great mental health day. Peace.